Impressive entrance as usual.
Nice to be appreciated.
Don't sell yourself short, mate.
Starting moments of Anthem are truly amazing, with breathtaking environments and a promising story, and the ability to take to the sky at will. This excitement eventually fades though, as you continue forward in your journey to kill hordes of enemies, to obtain lackluster loot, and explore the same areas. Anthem looks and plays like a game it should be better, but it suffers rigorously from repetitive gameplay, bland loot, and tiresome characters. Anthem has you in control of a custom Freelancer, a Javelin pilot capable of doing what others cannot. After a failed mission, you and your former allies have a falling out, forcing you to restart with a new team. Eventually you find out that someone named the Monitor wants to obtain the legendary giver of all life, the Anthem, and you have to stop him, of course. The Monitor, at first, seems like an appealing villain, calm, calculated, but overall ruthless in his goals. The problem, like much of Anthem, comes from the pacing. The villain is almost never seen other than a handful of times. Instead, the game has you jump between characters, lore, and other mindless missions. You would assume that everyone would be interested in stopping the Monitor from attaining the Anthem, considering his resources and reputation. As shown in an in-game flashback early on in the game, many of the characters see that this guy is a legitimate threat. But for some reason, you are forced to collect random items and pursue goals of personal interest to these characters that rarely impact the narrative. In addition, some of the dialogue has been misplaced, such as the beginning. A character who eventually meets up with you somehow is able to speak to you in the first raid mission that you go on, called a Stronghold. You then later meet this character in the end game Stronghold, which makes no sense. My assumption is that development of this game shifted halfway through, and whoever wrote this didn't pick up on this and they decided to leave it in.
Scars and acidic weapons. That's a combination I could do without.
Last thing we need are these bastards getting creative. Corvus said they've hit multiple caravans.
Speaking of Corvus, hatching in Sev.
Freelancer, ready to put your javelin to the test?
Just a normal day in Bastion.
Well, what's not normal is the scar activity in this region. We think this is where they're making the acid.
Any idea how?
Hatching in our Corvus contact.
Freelancer, name's Sev. I was hoping we could meet in person, but I see you're eager to get started. Corvus has been tracking an Iskari called Skilos. We gotta jump on it, but Skilos retreats.
Much of Anthem is padded with random characters and personal stories. Everyone seems inclined to ask you about their own personal life. In past Bioware titles, every character had a purpose, whether it was to determine the player's personality or add into the overall narrative. Instead, much of the dialogue here has you making obtuse choices with no real impact other than the change in writing to create the illusion of choice. It doesn't matter if you're a jerk or you attempt to help someone, it all ends up the same.
I got killed by a scorpion.
That's too bad.
Yeah, but that's life, right? You gotta be tough if you want to be an actor.
Who knows? Maybe you'll get another shot.
The gameplay fares much better, as Anthem literally takes off. The controls have been modified to complement Mass Effect Andromeda's system, with the player able to jump and dash easily. Added is the excellent flight system that allows you to take off at any time, expanding the verticality. There's no cover system, which can be annoying, but shooting is adequate and functions well. The player does have access to 4 Javelins that they unlock as they play, specialized suits that each have their own distinct abilities, strengths, and weaknesses. Each one more than less plays the same, but using their various abilities is always a thrill until you get into the game's progression system. The core of Anthem's progression is obtaining new loot, which isn't exciting. This is due to the game's lack of cosmetic differences, with distinct varieties to masterwork and common weapons almost non-existent. With games such as Borderlands, which released almost 10 years ago, having a wider array of cosmetic weapons, the ones offered in Anthem are just irritating. In addition, players cannot switch weapons on the fly and must go to a specific menu to prepare for the upcoming battles and force you to endure one of many loading screens. This extends to the Javelin's cosmetics, which are severely lacking compared to the ones showed in the demo presentations. Players are often limited to 1 or 2 emotes, a handful of material options, and very little vine rolls, with large chunks of cosmetic items locked behind obtuse grind goals and temporary sales like seen in the free-to-play game Fortnite, which isn't bad because that's a free-to-play game. Here you paid $60. Exploration, like much of Anthem, is amazing at the beginning. Jumping into the air and flying across the lush, detailed world is exciting. The The world is one of Bioware's best, with an excellent array of aquatic life, animals, birds, and flora. The entire traversal system takes advantage of everything you can do, and you could just fly to the sky, dive into the water, and collect resources while taking part in dynamic situations. But it's only good for the first hour, then eventually it just plummets, as you just do the same things over and over again, and since the lack of variety in loot is not there, you eventually just start to stop caring. Much of the campaign is centered on this open world, as the player travels through the same locations over and over again. At first, it's amazing to see the various parts of the environment with underground tunnels and deep lakes, but after the 10th time of flying through the world, the wonder is lost. Worst of all is the endless repetition of the same enemies and objectives. Much of Anthem has you fighting hordes of the same enemies. Much of them are bug creatures called the Scar, and you're performing the same task over and over again. Almost all the time you're playing hot and cold, flying to the next objective, and killing waves of enemies while standing near an objective. The local wildlife is much more exciting, but eventually they become boring as well. There are few and exciting battles such as this giant titan-like creature that you have to defeat. Kinda looks like the Berserker from Gears of War. It's an excellent fight that requires teamwork to take down. Then you fight it a dozen times, with the only variation to this creature being health and increased damage. Anthem features a lengthy grind against the same enemies rewards that all look the same. You can't bring up to 3 friends to any of the missions, and the joining of other players does make everything much easier, but quick play is completely broken, with the players unable to choose specific missions they want to go to, which seems very absurd. All these minor issues that Anthem has also start to mount up. For example, the delay trigger when selecting matchmaking, and the 5 seconds you have to wait for the next checkpoint to appear is infuriating. Enemies spawning out of nowhere, disappearing icons, and other minor technical issues slowly build up until they're hard to ignore.
The day has finally come. We only need to find the manuscript. This is extraordinary. I can't stop pacing.
Let's find this tower you mentioned.
Yes, the tower. This is amazing.
Again, all of this is a shame considering that Anthem is a beautiful game. The character models, the javelins, the environment are all teeming with detail. The animations are amazing, and small touches like plant life waving back and forth inside small pools of water shows dedication to this project. The musical score shares the graphical quality with a mixture of great beats that keep you engaged in combat. But like much of Anthem, the lack of substance makes all these amazing features go to waste. Anthem is a beautiful game that opens strong and eventually begins to steadily fall until it hits the ground. There is so much wasted potential here, with a beautifully crafted world, amazing creatures, and a flight system that provides the freedom of movement that players often crave. But due to the lack of variety in weapons, cosmetics, and objectives, the desire to continue playing is crushed very quickly. The narrative just adds more disappointed, as Bioware's reputation is known for being the masters of storytelling. But none of these things are in Anthem, and I really hope that Bioware can recover from this, because this game has a lot of potential of becoming something great. But in the state that it's in, it's not worth playing right now.